Hey, so Haran, let me ask you a question because you come from a culture that has a lot of arranged marriages, right?
Well, not really my culture, but similar to my culture. Like Sri Lanka, we don't have a lot of people that have an arranged marriage, but there are a lot of people that get their parents would introduce their sons or daughters and say you guys should be good together.
Highly encouraged,
yeah. But I know a lot of people that were arranged marriages, even some people that went to our high school. I know a few that actually were.
Do you think their marriages were more successful or just kind of
I don't think the marriages are successful. I think they're just in it because they have to be in it and they have to show face, and if they get a divorce it would be shunned within the community, within their family,
within their communities,
right? And so they're kind of stuck with it and they're not happy.
That's what I was going to say about these divorce rates. You can break it down by race, religion, whatever you want. There are a lot of people who are not divorced, but they're not happy. So let's not conflate the two.
So I do have a stat here, the same stat. How does race impact marriage and divorce? And not surprisingly, the Asians are the lowest, and that would be Southeast Asians, India.
But that's like you were saying. That's culturally.
That's culturally. That's
because
correct.
I wonder if that differs whether or not you're in the East or the West.
What do you mean?
No, because if you're in the East, I see what you're saying.
Because if you're here in America, do those stats really, You know
what I hear a lot from my friends who are from overseas, or their wives are from overseas. What I've heard from them before, or especially the male perspective. It probably works with the female perspective as well, is that a lot of them said, man, it was great when she was over there, but when she got here,
totally different, right? They become Americanized.
That was
they take the hijab off.
When in Rome,
eat pork,
Americanized,
do it all. You know what I'm saying? Drink alcohol. It's totally different when it comes in here.
So can I ask a question as a person that's I'm probably the only person here who's never been married, I guess, at this table. So
you're so lucky.
I mean. You know what? It's a blessing and a curse because my parents have been married for 54 years. Okay, so I have seen, like you were saying, the example. I've seen the example. I don't think I can mimic it, so I don't want to do it. I'm not.
The example of your parents.
I have an interesting piggyback on that. So my middle daughter, she is 19, and up until a few years ago, she's always, she's literally had a perpetual boyfriend since kindergarten. She changed him every 6 months, but it was always the newest boy. She was my 19-year-old. She's a beautiful girl. She's real bubbly, real personable personality. And as she became a teenager, so let me back up a little bit. My the man that I was married to, he has been with her since she was 18 months old. So that's daddy to her. And the kind of example of a man that he set for her set the bar really, really high. And I mean really high. And so when she became a teenager and started dating boys, it was almost an immediate realization for her that none of these boys were going to live up to the standard that daddy gave.
That's my problem.
She's a lesbian now.
Well, I'm not going to be a lesbian.
Straight up.
I'm not mad at her.
But to piggyback on what you said, so maybe it's not the example that you can't live up to. Maybe it's that you can't find anyone that is going to provide what you've witnessed.
Absolutely.
So are you comparing?
So I'm getting ready. I was getting ready to say that. So a guy that I go to church with, he was one of the ushers. He wrote a book, based on his marriage and all this other stuff. And he used to come and interview me and my friend right before church. And so he would hit me up sometimes on the side on Messenger and ask me questions or whatever. And one day he told me, and I swear to God, for some reason, I was flabbergasted because it just never dawned on me. He was asking me questions, and I was kind of saying the same thing I just said now, much deeper. But he said, you know your dad's already taken. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, your dad is already married. And I was like, yeah, I know he's married to my mom. He's like, but Tanya, you think that's your man. And I was like, what are you talking about, Chris? He was like, I'm listening to you, reading what you're saying. And he said, it's like you think your dad is your man, but he's really your mom's man. And that man is not for you. God's going to give you the man that's for you. You can't have somebody else's man, basically. And I was like,
amen.
It really floored me.
But how did that change your thought process?
It didn't.
No, it did. I mean, don't get me wrong. My dad's got flaws like everybody else, but I'm definitely a daddy's girl. But my dad has always done the things that I expect a man to do. My dad always had a job. He always had a second job. He always took care of the family. We came first. You know what I mean? He was very giving to other people, but we always came first. He sent me to private school, blah, 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 blah. He did all these things. So I expect any person that I'm with, if they don't do certain things, like my mom wanted her kitchen redone. My dad got a part-time job, and she didn't get her kitchen done today. She got it done when my mom got her kitchen done. It's probably 10 years later, but she got everything she wanted, and my dad was like, "Boom, here's the check. Whatever you want, get it." And
but do you see the flaw in that thought process? Though?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know how to change it because I mean, and don't get me wrong, I am very much.
Wait, what do you
the flaw in her thought process? Or okay,
no, in her thought process.
There is a flaw in my thought process for sure, but also
like, what if you grew up without a dad?
I don't know. My daughter grew up without a dad, but my dad is my daughter's dad. Okay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So my daughter, because I've asked her before, like, you want to go find your dad? She's like, no. My dad totally filled in the spot. She doesn't fill a void of not having a father.
So when you're dating and you're with someone, when situations come up, in the back of your mind, do you go back to my dad wouldn't do that?
No, I've actually never thought that.
Or not necessarily make the conscious thought that my dad would do that, but in the back of your mind, like, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Now, maybe that's not what you're supposed to do, but not necessarily because of my dad. More of like maybe like a moral or ethical thought, maybe in that way. But like,
you think you overthink relationships?
Probably, sure. I'm sure I do.
Who doesn't?
I mean, yes, and I'm a woman, so we tend to overthink small things.
I kind of want to.
But I think for me, I'm the type of person. You don't have to come to the table with $1 million. If I like you, you could have nothing. We can make this $1 million together, boo.
Here we go back to this subject.
So I'm gonna jump back to Stefan's situation because I am very, very interested on how.
I wanted to go back
how he survived that.
Exactly.
Situation.
How did you overcome?
We got sidetracked a little bit, but boy, both of them stepped in a freaking landmine and actually didn't get blown up, and I am way interested in that situation.
Well, the story is. I was a gospel artist at the time, and I was traveling east to west coast. All of the award shows I was a part of, maybe not on the televised portion, but all of the side, events I was a part of. And it was this one particular event I went to on the West Coast. It was a young lady that I kind of like took under my wing as my little sister. Not going into too many details, but we ended up having a unexpected encounter with each other.
Was it just one time, or was
it was one time?
Okay.
It was one time, and what I wanted to come back home and tell my wife, like, look, I did this, I messed up. But someone that was with my group was saying, yo, you're about to blow up. You don't want this to come back on you. You don't want this to be a thing. You want to make me keep it, suppressed and just go on about your life and don't say anything. So long and behold, I took that advice, but it would still eat me up on the inside because I never wanted to do that.
How long after did you tell?
I told her maybe 2 months afterwards.
Okay.
And then once I told her, she confessed to me that she had committed adultery with another young lady that she was friends with.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
You look at the guy's eyes. You look at the
guy's eyes. I'm like, damn. I'm like, can we bring her in?
How did that make you feel?
I was crushed.
Emasculated.
Not only was I crushed that she did it, I was crushed that it wasn't even a man.
Did you feel emasculated in some degree?
Maybe at the time, maybe I didn't have the right verbiage for it, but at the time, I was just like, man, and it created revenge feeling inside of me. So then we tried to this open marriage type of.
Oh my God, this is
You
so
even
good.
went
I wanna
there.
know
Okay.
so much more.
So how did she
Lord.
feel when you told her?
She was just I guess I'm assuming that she felt horrible.
Okay.
And she confessed to me, and she told me her reasons why she did it. It was because I was on the road all the time.
I was just
I
about to
was
say.
always gone.
Absent.
I was always absent. We had a
Filling a void.
So
we had
was she bi-curious?
no.
Filling a
What
void.
it was is that the friend was bi-curious. She was the available person
I'm here
for
for
her
you.
to try.
It was,
here for
it
you.
was
Her
easy,
hand.
yeah, it was easy for her to
Did they
finagle.
have an ongoing affair, or was it just
No,
one
it
time?
was one time
okay.
because it wasn't because from my knowledge, my wife didn't want that advancement.
Okay.
She didn't want it, but she said that she was so stuck.
Prepped. She was prepped.
She was so stuck in the moment that she didn't know how to
Get out of it.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
Because she was. I mean, I can imagine she was probably shocked. She was probably like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that I'm in this position." But it happened, and it happened out of a void.
So now you guys did an open marriage.
Yeah, I was just
And
gonna
we
go
did
there.
this
Right.
open marriage thing, and it was so
Horrible.
fucking crazy, man.
What was did you guys actually go on dates with other people?
Like, what was it? What was the?
It
What were
was-
the rules?
It-
rules.
It wasn't no rules because we didn't know what the hell it was.
Right.
So we just heard about it, we saw it, and we were like, well, let's try this. And then I was about to mess with another married woman, and then she got advancements from other guys, and it was just basic bottom line, it was a mess, and she was ready to leave me. And I had at that time, my first daughter was maybe 4 months.
By her?
Yeah.
So did you feel like when you guys were doing that, it was more of a okay? So since she's seeing somebody, I'm gonna go ahead and see
Yeah,
somebody.
it was-
It wasn't like a.
It was all
more
out of revenge.
yeah.
It was all out of ignorance.
Spite.
And it was out of spite. And insecurities.
Yeah.
Sounds like
That's a
everybody's
recipe
reason
for
for
disaster.
divorce. It's
That's
everybody's reason for divorce.
So
and
I
that's
have-
the problem.
What, spite?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have a couple that I know I'm acquainted with, and they like to tell people that they are in an ethically non-monogamous relationship.
That is the proper term.
That is the proper term for it. Now, I can tell you that witnessing them simultaneously go out on dates with other people, watching the other partner wait for the other one to return from their date from another person, and then the aftermath of just being a fly on the wall and witnessing their conversations when they come back together, and then days to follow, the roller coaster of emotions that they go through from the initial, first texting, hey, we're going to hook up. I'm going to hook up with this person. You have a date with that person. So from that, peak and high of the roller coaster to all of a sudden the descent from the date down to the aftermath of the few days after, it's insane to watch. It is insane to watch.
So Stephanie and I had a conversation about this couple. Well, actually, we had a conversation about whether or not we wanted to have this couple on the podcast, and I X'd I nixed it because I didn't think. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more I find their situation very, very interesting, and I'd love to dive into it. I told her personally, it wasn't that dude's idea to start this open marriage. First of all,
No,
It's
it's
definitely-
usually not. It's the
it's
dominant person in the
it's
relationship.
the dominant person in the relationship.
What make
The narcissistic
What
dominant
makes
person.
her? And like you, what in your mindset? What makes her the dominant personality in a relationship?
Because no man is going to start and say, you know what, I'm gonna have I want to have an open relationship,
Right.
because if the wife ain't down with that, she's outie.
Right.
Well, let's ask Stefan. Stefan was in one. How did that start off? How did you guys get it? How did you guys agree to that?
I think because I wish I could have.
Like who broached the subject
It
first?
was my idea. She kind of went along with it, but I think she went along with it reluctantly, right?
But did you say it out of
Did you
spite?
did you
say
really
it-
want to do it though? Yeah.
I was.
Were you just
I was
searching?
young and dumb.
But
You
I'm just
just
saying now,
searching-
looking back, did you really want to do that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Y'all just basically you didn't really know where
You're
you
just
wanted to go.
trying to
You're
figure
trying to
out.
go
I didn't
some
know
direction.
what I was doing.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing because
Right,
I
got
didn't
you.
have the knowledge on how to repair what I didn't have the knowledge to repair the damage that had been done.
Right. You thought that would fix it, yeah.
I thought that maybe that would kind of like get us to a better place, but it ended up making it even worse.
I feel like how long did you guys do the open?
It wasn't long. It maybe a couple months. Because at that point, I'm sorry. No, at that point, we had gotten so bad, and finances, newborn baby. I wasn't working. This, that, and the third. I was at the point of suicide.
Oh, wow.
Ooh. I was just like, man,
that was a bad idea. Bad idea.
Yeah. At that point, I was like, man, forget this. And I made a call to a cousin of mine, and he got me got me out of the pit that I was in. And just so happens that we were getting evicted from our apartment, right? And then we were coming from Hampton to, where was the church at the time? Alexandria. I was going from back and forth to do praise and worship at this church up here in Alexandria. And just one day, I had my wife and my kids with me. One day, I just didn't go back to Hampton. And from that point, we put all our stuff in storage. We went and got our clothes, and so we literally moved away from the environment that we were in with nothing but the clothes on our back. So when we got here, and gotta give a shout out to Todd and Ingrid Pickett, because they were our mentors, and we had a marriage counseling with them, just one. That was like an official marriage counseling, and they gave us some tools, and they've been in our lives for the past 13 years as marriage mentors. And if it wasn't for their example, we would not be married to this day.
Congratulations.
I find this situation, and I'm sorry that it dove into a therapy session here, but I find your story very compelling, and I'll tell you why I find your story very compelling. First, you have the black marriage situation, right? In there, right? Mm-hmm. The next thing is you also then have the young adults being married, right? And then young adults married with kids.
Right.
Then you had the church aspect to it, right? Mm-hmm. You had the adultery aspect to it. You had the
ethically non-monogamous.
Ethically non-monogamous.
We got it all in this one.
So your story is so compelling to me, because how you made it out of that pit hole to where you are right now.
That's an amazing story.
It is amazing.
Yeah,
I was just about to say, to be able to not only be able to get to the point where they get to stay together, but to be able to publicly acknowledge all of it. That my mind is blown.
I find that extremely compelling, and I have to give you
major props
on that.
Big time.
Because all right, I get in trouble with the internet by saying most, so I'll take most out of my vocabulary so nobody
a lot of
gets them off. There are few people, few men, few black men that make it through that.
Right.
Black men in particular. All right, stop. Pride.
Ego.
Jamaican people are prideful people.
Right.
I am a Jamaican. Me born and grew in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
You know what I said?
Love it when he talks like that.
So me come find somebody where have pride. So I have pride, and pride gets in my way a ton.
Really? I'm shocked.
Yeah, you're shocked. You're very.
I wouldn't believe that.
So I am a very prideful person. So, man, to see that you were able to get into that pit hole and then crawl yourself out of that. Not only crawl yourself out of that pit hole,
bring your marriage along with you,
but then bring your wife and your kids along with you.
Dude, can we go back to something though?
Oh my goodness, go ahead.
So to me, based on I'm listening to what you're saying, and it goes back to what he said, which he did not finish this topic, which was about the purpose.
Right.
So I think that if you bring that in, maybe they'll understand, because I get it.
Right.
Let's just tap into that.
I think. Well, my mindset was, if I leave this woman, where am I going?
The grass ain't always greener, right?
It ain't always greener.
It's never greener.
And my wife, we talk about this all the time. She says, I'm not attracted to no men. I'm not attracted to nobody but you.
Oh, man.
And I find it to be the biggest crock of bullshit because I love women. Mm-hmm. I love all women.
Mm-hmm. Head turning.
But I show my love for all women by loving this one woman.
Okay.
Man,
because
don't you want to hug him? I do too.
Go because ahead. If
I rarely get like this, but that one.
Yeah, that was great.
No, seriously, because
you're in trouble, darkness.
It's a high price to pay for being a man that loves, that spreads your love around. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a heavy thinker already.
You can see that.
I'm always methodically, structuring and strategizing and all this. And sometimes when I'm doing that and I'm listening to my wife, I get frustrated because I'm like, I'm already on
step 25,000.
So imagine if I had
like a chess player,
2 or 3 other women with the same that's vying for my time,
wanting that same
wants
energy.
My attention, wants my resources, wants my physicality. I would go insane. I don't know how Solomon did it.
That's my joke. Because this is gonna get me in trouble, but it's totally a joke that men with 2 families are the real heroes. Because it's hard enough with one.
I don't know how many of in the former generations had this family and then another family on the side of town and was able to still be alive.
Yeah.
Well, that's
a lot of.
You definitely cannot give your energy equally.
I wonder what.
Like